Good evening. Welcome to the Press Box. We're live from the People TV studios tonight. With me is the often opinionated, never imitated Ty Reynolds. How you doing, Ty?
All right, we're hanging in there.
All right. So tonight we want to start off with one of our sponsors, the Atlanta Knights. Okay, they're definitely on a roll. 10 straight playoff victories.
Well, Jay, when you look at what the Knights have done in the playoffs, first of all, when you get into playoff hockey, and I don't care if it's NHL or IHL, teams are going to become more defensive-oriented. They're going to be more concerned because during the regular season, there are a lot of tomorrows. Well, when you get into the playoffs and you have 5 or 7 game series here, there's all of a sudden a tomorrow coming up shortly. Teams tend to tighten up a little bit, and I think that's a type of game that the Knights want to play anyway, is that defensive-style hockey that you talked about all year long.
Yeah, they're definitely that game 1-0. That last game was just unbelievable. It was like an NHL playoff game. They really back-checked. They took away the neutral ice, and it just looked like you were watching the NHL on ESPN. It was a fantastic game. Greenlay's just been playing, standing on his head, making save after save. I think Drulia, McDougall, and LaRouche, they're scoring goals by the handful. I don't really see them losing to Fort Wayne. They go there for 3 games, I know, but I think the Atlanta fans won't see them back here in the Omni. They're going to win that Turner Cup over in Fort Wayne.
You really do. I think they're going to win it here. But you mentioned a key name, and that's LaRouche. And I think during the middle of the season, he really came along and started playing well. And that enabled the coaching staff to take Medill off of that potent LaRouche and Drulia line and give that second line a little bit more scoring punch. Well, along with McDougall, he gives him a big young man, Jim Cummings, to more or less make sure there's a law and order out there for that particular line, while Jason Ruff moves up on the number 1 line with Drulia and LaRouche, and both teams, or rather both lines, have been very productive and have scored a lot of goals, especially in the first game, the 7-4 victory.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Ruff. He's done a good job throughout the playoffs. However, I don't see Fort Wayne winning 2 out of 3 up there in Fort Wayne. Like, you think it's coming back here to Atlanta? I think that the Knights will win at least 2 out of 3. I think they're going to win the next 2, and this will be the year that they never lose a playoff game.
Well, if they do that, then what the Atlanta fans are going to have to do is to find some 12-legged creature to throw out on the ice in the future for playoff games in the upcoming years, like Detroit has with the Octopus when they won 8 straight games way back when, in the 40s.
Yeah, it sure worked for Detroit this year, didn't it, Tom?
Yeah, it sure did.
Let me remind our callers that we're live here, and the phone number is 873-6713. Feel free to call in with your questions and comments throughout the sports world. All right.
You know, one other thing I want to harp on here is that going into the playoffs, I was really concerned with this team maybe being matched up with Cincinnati late in the year. Cincinnati came in here, they double-dipped us here in the Omni 2 straight, and it was playoff-style hockey then. And I was really concerned about the Knights being matched up against them because here it is, they had that veteran goaltender with NHL experience in Eldon Reddick. And I think the Knights are very fortunate that they're not matched up with Cincinnati in this final.
That's a good point. They've always had a hard time with Reddick in their 2 years, and they may be fortunate. That's probably why they're going to sweep the whole thing. That'll be unbelievable. First national championship, I guess, for an Atlanta sports team, right?
Well, that's long overdue.
Yeah. Okay, let's move to the Hawks. What do you think's happening there? They're playing right now, even as we're on. I guess our fans are all watching the Hawks game.
Or the Braves.
so
we got to do something about the timing of the show now.
Yeah. But I think they were up by 4 at halftime or something like that. They're coming along. You think they're going to win this game tonight?
Well, I think they can win tonight, but I really think the Hawks are in trouble because, first of all, they screwed around in Game 1, and they immediately lose a home court advantage with a second series in a row. And so what that does is that it gives you 3 chances to take 1 back away from Indiana. Well, they haven't come close. Indiana has just dominated those games up there, and the Hawks just have had no chance at the end of the game to see if they can steal that one away. And I really think that club's in trouble.
Not me. I think that they did lose the first game in a short series and came back and won it. That's almost impossible to do. In a 7-game series, it's not as important because of the length of the series. You have 4 more home games. I think if they win tonight, it's going to put a lot of pressure on Indiana they'll have to win that 6th game.
You're right.
You can see that coming. If the Hawks win tonight, that 6th game will probably go into overtime. It's going to be a life or death kind of game. And if they can bring it back to Atlanta for a 7th game. They got it again, and don't put it past the Hawks. They can win 3 games in a row. They've showed off and on all year that they're the best team in the Eastern Conference. Hopefully, they'll be more off and less more on and less off this time.
I think you mentioned a key point here with that 6th game, because a lot of times where teams have a chance to finish you off in a 6th game. If you don't do it, then you're not going to win that 7th game. I can give you a perfect example. It happened this year with San Jose playing Toronto in hockey. It doesn't even matter which sport it is. Just like the Braves when they were playing in the World Series versus Minnesota, when you are winning 3-2, and then you have a chance to win that 6th game, and you don't win it, and that 7th game is at their place, that's always a very hard win to get. And more often than not, the home team's going to get that win when that 7th game is at home.
Yeah, that's true. Well, while we're on the Hawks, let me ask you, what do you think's the deal with Mookie Blaylock in this playoffs this year?
Well, I think that's one of the big significant factors here. Blaylock, as everyone knows, is a catalyst of the Hawks. And when he comes over that midcourt line, you see an immediate double team. They want the ball out of his hands. I think the Hawks have really struggled on how to handle getting double teamed. The ball movement is just not there. Other clubs who I don't think are as good as the Hawks can make really good plays and passes when some of their players are double teamed. Kevin Willis constantly is double teamed, and so was Blaylock, and the Hawks just are not making them pay the price. And what is happening is that their shooting percentages are terrible. When you look at these 3 games that they lost, their shooting percentages were 41, 41, and 42%. While Indiana is, in these games that the Hawks have lost, is shooting 48, 52, and 53%, and that's why you're seeing a lot of blowouts.
Well, I couldn't believe Blaylock, I guess because he's such a ball handler, he's got to concentrate on that. But I can't believe how inconsistent shooting he is. He's one game, he's just on fire, and he can't miss. It's 4 or 5 straight threes, and the next game he goes 3 for 20. Seems like he cost him the game. I think he's a real key. I think he can get hot here in the next couple of games, and he'll probably carry him, I hope.
Well, I think that is one of the factors, but then again, Indiana's defense has been double teaming him and trying to take that away.
Right. Ty, what do you think about all the whining about the Dominique Wilkins trade? Do you think that they'd be faring any better in this series if they had Dominique Wilkins to go?
Right now with Indiana, I think they would. I really do. And I think we got a phone call right now. Let's go ahead and get this, and then
sure.
go ahead and finish that question up.
Sure. Hi, you're live on the air. Go ahead. Yeah.
Just a quick question in reference to the Hawks. Should we, how should we take this moving to the suburbs? And if they lose tonight, would you suggest that they should go ahead and pack the bus and head towards Chattanooga, maybe even?
Okay, good question. The Hawks have a proposed move to the suburbs, and they're saying it's an economical move, that there's nothing against downtown Atlanta. It's just the building and the Omni. They can't, for our viewers that aren't familiar with it, they can't put luxury boxes in it. They can't renovate it like they want, so they want to buy a sports structure out in the suburbs, I guess own the land and have control over the total revenue, which is it's a good move if you want to make money. With the escalating salaries, they almost have to do something like that.
Right, I like the scene of them being downtown, and you got a great complex down there with the World Congress Center there, the Dome, of course, and then the Omni International, all right there. That's a great setting for sports, and I really like that a lot, and it's really a shame that the Omni can't be renovated with these luxury suites, but that's where the money is. The Omni is prehistoric compared to these new facilities when you look at places like the Delta Center or the arena that they have in Phoenix now. These places are loaded with luxury suites, and that's where a lot of the money is, and if you don't go after that, I mean, you're missing out on a lot of cash. It's a move that they have to make.
Yeah, it's inevitable, I guess. In response to the caller, the almighty dollar sign rules sports, as we all know, and it's a shame, but I do think that both the Hawks and the Knights will move.
Now, if they want to sit there
downtown
and put that arena right there on Abernathy Road at 400, I mean, if you've ever been in that area around 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the evening, that's a quagmire anyway. That's the last thing they need to do, is to go ahead and stick another facility in there that holds about 18 or 19,000 people. It's congested enough up there already.
Hey, there goes my property values. All right, we have another phone call. Hi, phone caller. You're on the air live, People TV. Go ahead. All right. We had to dump that call. Don't ever say that again. No. Okay, we were talking about the Hawks.
Right, and the Dominique Wilkins factor. And I think
it really comes into play when you get into a half court, pound it down inside.
it comes into factor because here it is, the Hawks just don't have firepower right now. I realize Danny Manning scored, 35 points in the last game. But what it comes down to is that you talk about Blaylock not hitting too many outside shots and not too many three-pointers. Well, when you see Wilkins out of that lineup and no longer there, that's one less person, and that's a big target to guard. I mean, and then they can focus in on Blaylock and continue their double team on him. Stacey Ogman's not an outside shooter. I mean, he's a transition player.
Sure.
He's not going to help you that much in a half-court game. He'll help you some, but not with outside shooting. Danny Manning, I mean, he's a pretty good inside player and a pretty good passer, but Elo and Blaylock are the people that you need to be able to put it up from outside.
Well, I really think they could alleviate part of that problem by going to Farrell more. Dwayne Farrell from Georgia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
He can create off the dribble, and he's not the prima donna that won't pass. Like, I think part of the problem with Dominique is when the ball went into that position, it never came back, okay? And so the other people around him never got any shots. Now, if you plug in Wilkins in this offense, the same thing was happening, and that's why they had to get rid of him. I think one of the advantages that Farrell has is that he isn't afraid to give the ball up. I think the big games, he's come in and dominated in a half-court game, even though it has only been 5 or 6 minutes, and that kind of got him going. I'd like to see him go to him a little bit more and then use the transitional players when the other team's trying to catch up.
I think those are two separate players. I don't think he's a three-point shooter like Dominique was, and I really think that opens some things for your other outside shooters. I think they got some open threes, and I really think that it opened up inside for players like Kevin Willis.
Okay, we have a phone caller. You're live on the air. Go ahead, phone caller.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to People TV, the press box.
I can't hardly hear you. What you say?
I said, welcome to the press box. Go ahead. You have a question or a comment on sports?
Yes, I want to know, do you think that Hawks have a chance to win tonight?
Can you speak up a little bit?
I want to know, do you think the Hawks have a serious chance to win tonight?
A chance to win tonight?
Yeah.
I think they have an excellent chance to win tonight, and I don't want to go out too far on a limb here, but they're going to win the series. Don't worry about it. They're going to take that 6th game in Indiana in overtime, come back here and trounce them in Game 7. You need to go ahead and get your tickets to Game 7, though, okay?
Okay.
Thanks for the call.
Bye, bye.
I think another issue here is going to be rebounds. In these games that the Hawks have been losing, they've been getting out-rebounded probably by an average of 6 to 8 rebounds a game. They cannot let that happen. Those big, thick bodies like Davis have been getting in there and been getting a lot of easy baskets off of rebounds, and they just cannot let that happen. They need to block out. And Indiana is just shooting the ball too well, and the Hawks defense is not. Because of their great shooting, the Hawks defense has been out of position to block out. So
Yeah, that's a good point. They have really suffered in the rebound department.
right, and Miller has really come on up home, so up there in Indianapolis.
We have another phone caller here, Ty.
All right.
Hi, caller. You're live on the air with the press box.
Hi, I wanted to know why do you think or what's behind the reason for the Hawks not being able to sell out late. I mean, that are playoffs and you have the best team or the team with the best record in the East, and you can't sell out. That's just that. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I'm a Bucks fan. And
What a great town.
Yeah, I mean, we were in the smallest market, the sorriest team in the East. We have no problem selling out. So I wanted to know what do you think is the reason behind the Hawks not being able to sell out?
Okay, first and foremost is the bratwurst. The bratwurst isn't as good at the Hawks game, so the fans don't come. In Milwaukee, you know they're going to come for a beer and a brat, whether the basketball's good or not. But as far as the Hawks not selling out, I think the sports dollar is soaked up in this region by other sports. College football's big. The Braves have been tremendous over the last couple of years. Now the Knights are on a roll, and there's too many people that have spent their sports dollar on another venue, and they don't have enough money to go to the Hawks game. I know I'd love to go to a couple of these playoff games, but I had to invest in Brave season tickets so I could go to the World Series this year.
Well, I think
What do you
that's
think?
one of the keys is money. Here it is, a playoff game will cost you $30. Well, you can go to 3 Braves games for $30. If you want to take a family of 4 people, that's going to cost you over $100 easily. I just think it comes down to money, and I think that the people would rather watch the Braves.
But I don't think that a regular season Braves is that intensity of it, excitement of an NBA playoff.
You're right.
You're right, and another thing you have to consider is that you're from Milwaukee, and I think that that's a big-time basketball city, a lot bigger than Atlanta, to be honest with you. I think there's just a lot more concern for their team up there than there is down here. I think there's more tradition in Milwaukee.
Yeah. Well, Don Nelson started that, and they got Lou Alcindor before he changed his name, and he was real good.
Well, and Oscar Robertson.
Yeah.
I mean,
they
had
brought
great
him
players
back.
up there.
Yeah, and right now, Hawks basketball, like Ty said, there isn't a big tradition of winning championships or being in the championship, and that's a factor. Plus, you brought up money, $30. You say, well, I've paid $30 to go to a sporting event before. But then you have to sit up in the rafters, like I wouldn't mind paying $30, $40 to see a playoff game if I could see the game, courtside or whatever. I know that's unreasonable demand with everyone having a $100 million salary these days,
It costs a lot of money.
So maybe if he gets those luxury boxes put in, then we'll all go, and they'll sponsor the show.
There you go.
We have another phone call. Hi, caller, you're live on the air with the press box.
Hi, how you guys doing tonight?
Pretty
All
good.
right.
How are you?
Pretty good. I don't mean to infringe upon your egos there, but I was kind of wondering where Vanessa is tonight.
She's in a school play or something.
She's in a school play at college.
And she'll be back next week or the following week. We're not as pretty as she is, but we'll still talk sports with you.
Well, she's got a fan club out here.
You're kidding.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
We got to tell her to get a 900 number now.
Yeah. Well, we'll tell her
Okay.
you called. Thanks
All
for
right,
the
thanks
call.
for the call.
Okay, we're talking pro basketball. What do you think about the other series? Briefly, Bulls and Knicks.
Let's talk about the Bulls. Here it is. To me, I think that this is really going to be tough for the Bulls to win. I like New York a lot. I picked them to win the championship at the beginning of the year. I'll stay with that pick. I think they are so hard to beat in a 7-game series. This Knicks club went down there in the Chicago Stadium in their last game and committed 10 more turnovers than Chicago did. Pat Riley can't let that happen. While during the same night, New York out-rebounded Chicago by 13 on their floor. I think New York is establishing dominance on the inside and with the power game. I think when this thing goes back up to New York, I think New York's going to have their own way.
I don't know. I think that a factor is the sort of infighting in the Bulls. I guess Pippen can't handle being a big ego, being the leader of the team, and that kind of came down when they moved back. The series moved back to the stadium. I don't know what's going to happen with that series. I think that if New York wins that series, they'll be the odds-on favorite to win the Eastern Conference. I'm sure they could beat either Indiana or Atlanta. We have another phone call. Hi, caller. You're on the air live on the press box.
Hi, I'd like to ask you guys a question about the Chris Dolman trade.
The Chris Dolman trade with the Falcons?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Well, I'm an old Minnesota Vikings fan, and it seems to me...
Oh, I'm sorry.
What?
I said, oh, I'm sorry.
He's a Packer fan.
Yeah.
They're usually not bad years, but they're never great years.
Right.
But basically, Dolman's been a great player, but it seems to me he's been slowing down a little bit. And I wonder if you think the Falcons did the right thing.
Yeah, I think they had to address their pass rush situation. He's a proven pass rusher. I don't think he stuffs the run as well as he used to in his earlier days, but they really need to get some heat on from the outside. They drafted linebacker after linebacker that was supposed to do that, and they just never got the sack production. I think Dolman, they're looking for a Richard Dent type, old Mark Gastineau type that just goes for the sack all the time, and it should help their defensive pass rush. Whether it helps their overall defense remains to be seen.
I'll go for that. They do need to do something about their defense. Being a Vikings fan, what do you think about your new quarterback, Andre Ware?
I've never been very pleased with any Minnesota's quarterback. What are they going to ever do with Gino Torretta?
Yeah, well, I think they're going with Warren Moon this year, right? He should be all right. They're one of the most, I'll tell you, Minnesota, we make fun of them in Cheeseland as a Packer fan, but Minnesota's one of the most improved teams in the offseason with their draft. They had a tremendous draft, and they picked up a couple of free agents, namely Warren Moon. I mean, he's got to help your offense. He steps into the huddle and automatically there's a presence there where he's seen it, done it, you know, and he should be the veteran leadership they've lacked at that quarterback position.
Yeah, that could be. You know, I think you got to hand it to Denny Green because when he inherited that team, he really cleaned house.
He had to.
Yeah, he got rid of a lot of old pros. I think he got a lot of people in Minnesota pissed off at him, but.
Probably, but when he wins football games, they'll learn to like him.
Yeah, they're one of the, I'd say, top 4 teams in NFC, along with the Packers. I might as well bring them up right here because the Packers improved themselves in the offseason, too. That's going to be a war there. I think Minnesota and Green Bay will probably be 2 of the best teams in the NFC this year.
Well,
Dallas
you're right.
has gone downhill, and San Francisco doesn't have the defense to compete with Minnesota and Green Bay.
All right, well, thanks a lot.
All right,
Sure, thanks for the call. All right, we were, where were we? Talking
Well,
about the
let's go to Houston and Phoenix.
All right,
This is
sure.
really interesting because no one can win a game at home. And here it is, Charles Barkley, when he's on the road, is averaging about 27 points a game. And then he comes home and is averaging 18 points a game for their 2 losses. Charles Barkley and Phoenix goes as Charles goes.
Yep.
He's the player, and that's the one that they ride. On the other hand, Houston went into that last game into Phoenix and shot 52%, while Phoenix was shooting a measly 42%. Phoenix has got to get it together, and someone's going to win at home sooner or later, and I think Houston's going to win the next game at home, and I think that's going to put a lot of pressure on Phoenix.
Phoenix is a much, much better ball club. They outside of Olajuwon, you know, you got to give it to this guy. Olajuwon, he's just an animal. He can block any shot. He can shoot any shot. His offensive arsenal is just tremendous. And, you know, he can single-handedly carry him to victory. However, I think he did that in the last couple games, see? And so he may be a little tired, and I look for Phoenix to win this. And if not the next 2 games, at least 2 out of the next 3 games, Phoenix is just loaded.
I just
they have
don't
a better
see-
bench. They have a better starting lineup, and they got Charles in charge. He's not letting on, but his back's bothering him a little bit. He'll get a couple of treatments, and he'll be back on track.
I don't see them matching up well with them in the interior. I think Houston's going to have a little bit of a mismatch advantage there. And Olajuwon, when it comes down to a game being close, I think can be a determining factor.
Okay, we have another phone call, all right, Ty? Go ahead, phone caller. You're live on the air on the press box.
Yeah, I have a question. My question to you is, I thought the trade earlier with Dominique was going to be a good trade, but I sit and watch the playoffs, and I'm really thinking that's the worst trade Atlanta ever did, hurting them in the ticket season. I mean, the ticket thing here, and they act like, you know, they're in the playoffs now. It looks to me like they don't even have the heart, like they don't even have the desire some days.
It does. They have been playing inconsistent. Okay, but to address the Dominique Wilkins trade, we just talked about that. I feel like it's hurt him a little bit in the half-court game. You bring up a good point about the ticket sales. He was a popular player. He was a long-time Hawk. He went to the University of Georgia, and he was a draw. They don't have that big marquee player anymore, but I think in the long run, he didn't fit in the Lenny Wilkins style. He was more offensive-oriented than defensive-oriented, and in these economic times, he had to go sooner or later, and it was better for the Hawks that he went at this particular time. It was just a business decision. And you're right. I think, in a way, it has come back to haunt him.
Well, I think in the short term it's hurt the team, but you don't know about long term yet. And first of all, I don't know if they're going to re-sign Danny Manning. I think that they should. And then the Hawks, I think, need to make a few changes on the club because the chemistry doesn't look right for the team right now. When you win 59 games and then you match up with the number 5 seed, when Indiana 5.
Yeah, yes, they were. Orlando was at 4.
And you're getting dominated like that. I think you have a few problems that need to be addressed.
Yeah. Okay, let's. We only have a few minutes left. Let's touch on the NHL, where I know they're watching the Ranger game at Dirty Al's on Northside Drive. They're one of our sponsors. I hope there's a lot of shots over there tonight, if you know what I mean. What do you think's happening in the NHL playoffs? Do you think the Rangers are beginning to choke again?
Well, that's an interesting point. But first of all, let's not sell New Jersey short. That's an awesome team. They scored over 300 goals as a team this year, second only to Detroit. And they have a rookie goalie, Martin Brodeur, who's really aged well as the seas's gone along. He's been improving big time, has kept them in a lot of games, and was
Well,
really
the other
outstanding.
goalies played great, too, though. Terrier or whatever his name is.
The games that I saw Brodeur play against Boston, he was he was a big difference in those games. But I like New York to win this. They have so much talent and so much depth, and so many players can contribute and help them win games. I think New York is really going to be a hard team to beat, especially when you're talking about a 7-game series.
This is definitely their year. I said a long time ago, if the only team that could possibly knock them out would be some sort of fluke arch rival like the Islanders, and they drew the Islanders, got rid of that ghost right away. Didn't they sweep them? They killed them. And now they're rolling, and the Rangers should take the cup. The West has been very interesting with all the upsets, and I think when it comes right down to it, all the Cinderella stories will come to a crashing halt when they play the Rangers. I look for the Rangers to beat the Devils in their series, and they'll probably play Toronto. They're bigger, more physical. That'll be a good series, but the Rangers will probably win it.
I'm not going to sell Vancouver short right now, and the reason is because Vancouver reminds me of the team that won it all last year. They're getting some hot goaltending also. Kurt McLean has been awesome in some games. He's made some outstanding saves.
Yep.
I mean, he'll come out there, and when you look at the other team's 5 best chances, McLean will take 3 of them away. He's been dominating at times. And Vancouver has won a lot of games on the road and a lot of games in overtime, a lot like Montreal did last year, thanks to the good goaltending. They remind me a lot of that Canadiens team last year. But on the other hand, Toronto, they've been winning a lot of overtime games as well. And I think this style of play is going to favor Toronto. And I look for them to win this.
Yeah, well, we only have a minute here. I wanted to make sure we thanked our sponsors, our Sports Authority, the Atlanta Knights, and Dirty Al's on Northside Drive. We have maybe just 30 seconds here. We can touch on the Braves if you want to. What's going on with the Braves? Think they're in trouble? Think they're going to win the division?
They're giving me what I expected. They're pitching strong. Their hitting gets a little spotty at times, but when they need to come through in some big games, they have like the series in New York or the series with Montreal at home. The weakness here is that bullpen still, and I really think that when June comes around, the middle of June, I think Sherholtz needs to see about maybe taking a page out of Pat Gillick's book to see someone in our last year over there in the American League and see if you can get them cheap and then not have to keep them around at the end of the year.
Yeah, well, we got to wrap it up here. We want to thank all of our callers. Once again, thank our sponsors, and thanks for tuning in to the Press Box.
Jay,
we'll see you.
Let's go to Al's and get a beer.
Yeah, we'll see you down at Dirty Al's, okay? We'll finish watching that Ranger game, and tune in next week, same time, same channel. See ya.